NZXT just dropped 2 new mice and 2 new gaming keyboards. Let's take a look at them and see if they're any good. Take a look at the mice first, being the Lift 2 Ergo and the Lift 2 Symmetrical. And they go right with the name. You got your ergonomic mouse and then you got your symmetrical or ambi mouse. Now, as far as the shape of these mice and what are they similar to, well, the symmetrical one is pretty much right in line with the Razer Death Adder or Glorious Model O. Now, the Ergo one, the closest shape I can get is the SteelSeries AirX 5, but it's still not very similar. The NZXT definitely has a whole lot more hump over here, flares out a little bit more, and you feel it in that back side of your palm over here in the corner. The AirX 5 is again a little bit more streamlined, but the closest comparison I can really find. And hopefully I can show you that a little bit more with the thermal testing here. And why I do this is so you can see the grip points of the mouse. So I'm gonna go on and put my hand on here for a second, just how I would grip the mouse whenever I was using it. You can see it pretty much goes right into the back of my hand right there, but then pulling it to the side. And this will of course depend hand to hand, but I'm gonna take my hand off and hopefully get some heat signatures across it and you can see what I'm talking about. So as I pull it off, you can see that heat right here on the back, primarily on the other corner. We still have some wrapping around here because yes, it is a big ergo mouse, but you see primarily right over here, and it actually flares down towards the bottom of the mouse as well because that hump is significant towards the bottom. Now, I don't think we need heat signature on the symmetrical one, but I'll go on and give you one anyways. And this really depends. This mouse, you can pull into the back of your hand or flick and dip it, depending on your hand shape. It is, again, a bigger one here, more in the lines, again, that Glorious Model O and that Viper. So whenever you get it in your hand, you'll feel it kind of touch the sides right there. So it might get a little heat signature over there and over there as you're seeing, but that's really it. Nothing really in the back of your palm, but you can pull it back. Again, if you got a slightly smaller hand, you can pull it back here and kind of rest, and you'll see you'll get that heat signature in the back. Now, as far as the weight of these mice, let's go on and start with the Ergo one, and we are going to come in right at 60 grams. Of course, the wire is attached since these are wired mice. And then on the ambi one, we're getting right at 60 grams as well. Now, as far as the wires on these mice, they are definitely not the best. They're a little bit stiff. You're definitely got to slap it in a bungee and you still will feel that tension. You can see I can move it around here and you get no movement. It's pretty stiff and you don't have much kick up from here as well. So it's going to be directly going right down onto your mouse pad. Now, as far as the build of these mice, I'm going to talk about the ambi one because this was the majority of my time. I only briefly used the symmetrical one. So talking about this, we'll get the force gauge out here and I can press in up to roughly 12 pounds, no flex. And then on the back as well, even on the other side, no flex. But where you do start getting some flex is right here on the tail end. So I'm going to press it in right there and it's right there at 4 pounds, maybe 3 pounds, and we start getting that flex. The crazy thing is whenever we're right back here, and I don't know how well the camera can pick this up, but the frame is 2 separate parts. So you got your side and then a frame goes into the side. Hopefully you guys can see that in the camera, but on the back, you have like this space back there. So if you take the mouse and you press it, you actually get frame separation and pressing back there. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the camera. Same thing over here on, well, you really heard it right there over on the symmetrical one. It's that frame trying to like connect into the side. So the build of these mice, I can't really say it's good or it's bad because that flexing issue on the back, it is there, but I never ever noticed it in game. Me being a tighter gripper and liking a big ergo mouse where it's back in my palm, well, my palm's not gonna be gripping. It's gonna be up here on my fingertips, and that's the kind of flex we hate to see right over here on the side buttons where you're always gonna feel it in game. That back there, I mean, I'd have to be back here. I don't know what you'd have to do to be able to grip it. So you don't notice it, but it is kind of a stinker that it is there. Now, as far as the buttons on these mice, they are using optical switches. And let me give you a quick listen and then we'll talk more about them. So as you hear, they're not very loud. They're not very heavy even. They have a pretty nice feel. The one weird thing is I want you to watch this on the button 1. We press down, I got my click, right? So we are into the switch right there. I got all this extra play. I can pretty much bounce the switch right there while it's pressed down. That's on both buttons, and that happens on both mice right here. So our switch is pressed, and just look at all that free play down there. So they do feel very springy and very bouncy. The other thing, as far as the side buttons, and you can see this, just look at the front side button and go into the back one. So the front one's more in line with the shell. The back one flares out, kind of like it's on just a straight platform back there, and they place it in the mouse. So focusing again on the ambi one, again, this is the same across both of them. See, that one's a little more in, this one's out. Whenever you press them, you can see you still have that button coming out of the shell, but when you come up to the front one, it goes way in there. So it's weird. Whenever you're pressing your buttons, you feel this one going into the shell, but this one you're feeling out so much more. It's just a weird feeling, a weird design. They're in line, but again, it's just strange. And the other thing about these side buttons is they have tons of wobble. You can see me pressing it right there. It bows out on the inside, right there. It bows out on the front. Same with the back ones. You can probably see better. Bowing out big time on the back side. Now it will bow out in the front. So again, if you don't hit them smack dab in the middle, you feel that extra weird flex. So as far as the buttons on these mice, I just don't like them. Let's go on and try to flip this video around and let's talk about the keyboards. And I want to kick it off with a quick sound test. And what you were looking at there for a second is my ambient room noise. So now you can hear the difference of that to the sounds of the keyboards. So after we listened to both of these keyboards, they do sound a little bit different, but why I think that is because I did not use the full-size keyboard. I primarily used the, what do we call this, 80%, 85%? I'm not too sure what layout we call this here. I actually love this layout though. But again, these are pre-lubed switches. They got the dampening foam in there, and they got the taped PCB along with those PBT keycaps. So you have everything in there, and just feeling the full-size compared to this one that I use significantly over here, especially on my WASD, compared to my other switches, that lube almost feels lost on some of the switches. Now, these are using optical switches. They are by Gateron, so you're probably very familiar with that feel. They feel quite plasticky, and that's where a lot of that plasticky sound is coming from, right along with this being that floating keycap design. Now, as far as the build of both of these keyboards, pretty darn good, I gotta say. Again, we already talked about the internals, which help out with that pinging or ringing. You got the PBT keycaps, the aluminum top plate, the plastic housing going around, USB-C on the left. But what I really like about these boards is over here on the far left, you got a volume wheel, then you got a mute button, you got your Windows lock button, and then you got your RGB control, which will control the brightness of your RGB in steps or to turn it off. It's just lovely. Your WASD in, you can adjust your volume. WASD in, turn that RGB off. It's just right there. Really like this touch. Now, both these boards are also hot swap, but again, they use the Gateron switches, so you're not gonna be able to use your traditional 3-pin, 5-pin switches. They have to be the Gateron opticals. And as you see right down here on the PCB, you got that little laser beam in there and then your light. So your switch option is going to be limited, but the good thing is these Gateron optical switches are cheap, so you can try out different ones. Now you can also dive into the NZXT software, which is pretty nice because I actually use an NZXT pre-built PC, and it's just simple to use. You can adjust your keyboard all the way up to 8 Hertz and adjust your actuation in 2 points as far as 1.0 and 1.5, and right along with the mice, you can adjust those to 1000 up to 8000 polling rate as well. So now that we had a good look over of all the new NZXT gear, let's talk about the value. Is it worth it? What do we think about it? Now these keyboards, the mini TKL, which is what they're calling it, which I like, but again, what is it, 80 or is it 96%? I don't know. Let me know down in the comment the format of this. I just love that layout. But anyways, this one is coming in at 130 bucks. The full size is coming in at 140 bucks. Now on the other hand, the gaming mice are coming in at a very nice price range of only $50. And when we compile what the mice have, the optical switches, the 8000 polling rate, the lightweight, the pretty good build, at 50 bucks, it's not too bad, but I think there's too many issues with them, the bouncy buttons. I can look past it having a wire, but again, it has a bad wire. And then those side buttons, even at 50 bucks, which is a great option for what it's packing, I couldn't recommend them at that. Now coming over to the keyboards, the hard thing is again at that price point, 130 and 140, well, you can get other keyboards that are gonna probably have this same stuff and maybe a little bit more with better switches. The biggest downfall of these keyboards are the switches they're using. If they were using the 5-pin and I can swap them out, I don't need adjustable switches. I don't need Hall effect switches. I want to be able to use my 5-pin switches because you can get so many more and try more. It's really the switches that kill this board for me. So I don't mean to be the negative net over here. I'm just giving you my honest feedback and feel of these products. They're good, but they just missed that last step. What I get a feel from these, my honest takeaway is budget products. The keyboards, the price needs to be dropped more for, again, what it is. I'd like to see it maybe 75 and then 100. That would be a little bit better. We can class it as budget peripherals. Now, the other hand, which I think will be really cool from NZXT, and where we can look at this is like bundled products. Like if you buy an NZXT PC, you get these peripherals for free, like, you know, cyber power and all of them. They throw in their cheap keyboard and mouse. Now, these are a lot better than those bundled ones, but I still think that will be an awesome bonus for, again, buying an NZXT PC, getting pretty decent peripherals out the gate. So all in all, it seems like a miss to me. Even though each product is right there, it's just missing that extra touch. Let me know what you guys think about down in the comments, and thank you so much for coming by this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I was able to help you out. If I was, please hit that thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye now.